All right, it's time for another show. And Emerson, what is going on today? It's time for
Well,
pre-cows.
we're struggling again. Instead of me being out, it's our guy Robert or you. I mean, we've kind of had a rotation of chairs here. I feel like we're playing musical chairs, and I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna have to survive without Mr. Miller today.
It's going to be tough.
I know. It's
It's
no, we're
going to
not
be
as
tough.
pretty without him, but
All right, amen.
we do have a good guest, and I'm looking forward to that. We actually have Mikael Kågebäck from Sleep Cycle. He's going to be coming on the show and talking about a really interesting AI that they've got, the number one sleep app on Apple, their editor's choice for sleep, and I think we're going to be looking forward to an interesting conversation of another innovator. So excited to see where this goes today.
Well, it's amazing, and his name sounds very interesting. Where is he from? I mean,
He is from Sweden, so we've got a PhD from Sweden coming in today. Another AI engineer. So I'm looking forward to a little time with him, and I know we'll both learn a lot.
well, man, I'm looking forward to it. It's like we get these really amazing people and amazing products, and it just makes for an amazing show. So, you want to go
Well,
over
I
it?
love that we're global.
We're
We're
global,
we're we're
yeah.
reaching Europe with, we've had our friends from Britain. Now we've reached across the pond and up into Viking territory, and looking forward to what we have today.
Let's do it then.
All right.
Now, a word from our sponsor, MedBridge Healthcare. MedBridge Healthcare is a leading provider of sleep lab management services and home sleep apnea testing. MedBridge partners with hospitals, healthcare systems, and medical academic institutions to offer comprehensive, fully integrated services for sleep disorders. SleepTech Talk is brought to you by Fisher & Paykel. Fisher & Paykel Healthcare is a leader in CPAP mask design and innovation for over 20 years. Their unique technologies have benefited millions of OSA patients through their top CPAP masks. These advancements continue to further enhance patient experience and outcomes.
Lights out.
Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of Sleep Tech Talk, the Sleep Podcast with your hosts and friends, Emerson Kerr, Robert Miller, and me, Dr. Gerald George Moneycroat. Folks, once again, another amazing show, and we're really excited because we've got somebody that is overseas. But before we get to that, we just want to say a huge shout out to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for all the likes, all the subscriptions, and especially all the shares. We just continue to grow, and it's all thanks to you. A huge shout out to our sponsors. Be sure to check them out, without whom we cannot do this. And they have been tremendously instrumental in helping us grow as well. So, huge shout out to them. Be sure to check them out. With that being said, Emerson, what is going on today?
Jerry, we've got a special guest from Sweden today. We have Mikael Kågebäck. I'm hoping I said that right. I'm from Alabama, so I'm going to claim Alabamian on butchering that. So apologies, Michael. But Michael is currently the Chief Technology Officer at Sleep Cycle, where they formulate the strategic direction for research and development. Previously worked as a research scientist at Sleep Cycle. Prior to his role at Sleep Cycle, Michael was a PhD student at Chalmers University of Technology, conducting research in machine learning and artificial intelligence with a focus on deep neural networks. Michael also has experience as owner at Compiled, a software architect at Extenda, and a software engineer at Areco. Additionally, worked as a software engineer at the Swedish Armed Forces, contributing to various projects involving software development and systems coordination. Well, Michael, welcome to Sleep Tech Talk. We are so excited to have you on today. We talk about AI a lot on Sleep Tech Talk. It's something that is, it's certainly the big buzzword in sleep in so many different ways. So one of the questions that we like to ask all of our guests is, how did you get into sleep? Because with your background, that is not the direction I would have pointed you in as a forecaster of anything. So why sleep and how did you get here?
That's a very good question. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. I really happy to be in this setting because I think this is your audience. I think it's perfect for this discussion right now because at Sleep Cycle we have long catered to consumers, but now we are really pushing more towards medtech and tech licensing. So adding partnerships to our repertoire. So I think your audience is perfect for having that discussion. So I love that. So yeah, how did I end up here? Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, I'm not sure myself. I really like to follow my curiosity. I think that's why I went into research because that's really curiosity driven. But yeah, I mean, I started out as a conscript, and then somehow I got involved with the R&D at the Swedish Air Defense, and we actually did audio there. So we did some audio sensors and stuff. So that was really fun. But that was so many years ago. I forgot that I did that. But why did I go to sleep cycles? When I did my PhD, I focused on machine learning, but it's more language. But towards the end, I did some projects with audio, and I was looking for somewhere where I could apply my knowledge and do it where I could have real impact on real humans. And I mean, sleep is, you know this, sleep is extremely important for your health and for everything in your life. So I really love that. But on top of that, what we do at Sleep Cycle, so just a quick introduction to Sleep Cycle. We've been around since 2009. We have about 3.2 million active users, monthly active users, and every night we have about 1 million users using Sleep Cycle. So, I mean, that's an amazing data set to work with. I saw some other statistic. I think it was someone said they had 800 million hours of audio in their data set, and that's great, but that's one night for us. So it's a lot of data that we are processing, and we are doing this in this huge sensor network of phones that we have all around the world. So we can do so many things with that data, and again, just to kind of compare to some other companies, OpenAI, they do a lot with data and they process so much. And they said that it was a few weeks back at their dev days, they said we process about 6 billion tokens a minute. So I thought, wow, I mean, that's impressive. That's extremely impressive. But so how much do we process? We process about 4.5 petabyte of information every day. That's about 100 times more information than OpenAI is currently processing. So now you really get an understanding of how much data we have at hand. So for me, that was just like the perfect fit. I could have impact on people's lives, real impact, good impact on their health, and also so much data that I can do, apply my knowledge to get real value. That's why I ended up here.
Well, for our the listeners who aren't sure what a hepabyte is, give us some context on that so that yeah, and I hate to pause such a great conversation, but that's got to be massive beyond comprehension probably. But give us a sense of what that means and then maybe what that can lead to, because I think, we look at a lot of discussions around AI. It is all
Mhm.
about the data, and the more of it, the more we can see phenotypes and the different things that begin to just separate out groups of people. So if you can give us a sense of what that means from a size standpoint, but then also what it also means towards predictive maybe analytics and things of that nature.
Absolutely. So now it's my turn to apologize for my pronunciation. Petabytes. So it's 1,000 terabytes. Uh, Another number or another way of saying it's a lot of data. I mean, lots and lots of data. It's so much data that we would never be able to process it centrally. It's something that you have to do in a decentralized manner for the fact that we completely go bankrupt in just one day. But I mean, we can't buy all of these data centers that OpenAI are buying or building, but also for privacy. So we really need to make sure that we do everything in a private way. When it comes to what we can do with this data, so I mean, we analyzed about 3 billion nights now, but that's just what we analyzed. We ask for permission, so we have a consent to contribute to, improve the world, I think we call it. So if you say yes to that, we have a research data set, and that is really what we are doing the research on. And now we have a bit more than 500 million nights in that. And I can give you some examples of things that we have been able to do and what kind of data is in that data set. So for everyone that is included in the data set, we have an identifier, so we can actually follow people over time. And we have a lot of people that have used Sleep Cycle for a very long time. So it's not rare that I talk to people. I talked to someone today, actually, a professor in Singapore, he was a user and he had used Sleep Cycle since 2015. So that's 10 years of data. So that type of longitudinal data on a massive scale is something that we used to produce 2 papers together with Rebecca Robbins et al. If you know her, she is at Harvard Medical. And one of them was about COVID. So we were able to go back in time and look at how COVID had been affected or had affected sleep. So could see that there was a statistically significant increase in the number of hours slept in a number of cities around the world. We looked at, I think, London, Los Angeles, Stockholm, and Seoul, I think. And we could see it all over the place. We could see why, because it was really clear. I mean, can you guess why people sleep more during COVID than they did before?
I couldn't even begin to guess. Yeah. Lazy, tired, who knows? I have no idea.
We had
So
a
we
lot more
found a
time on
nice.
our hands.
The insight was that we could see that this was more or less a step function. As soon as the restrictions were put in place, people started to sleep more. And we could see it nicely in all of those cities where you had restriction put in place in that way. While in Stockholm, I mean, in Sweden, we were a bit more loose about all this. So we didn't really have any restrictions first. And after a while, people started to work from home anyway. So you can see that kind of gradual shift. When people work from home, they don't commute, and obviously, or apparently, people need more sleep because they started to sleep more when they had the
So,
opportunity to do it.
so what you're saying is what the data showed that people slept more, and that was because of need, and we're shortening because COVID, you didn't have to go out, and otherwise, outside of this COVID thing, we are getting up or reducing our hours of sleep simply because of the requirements of work. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's a very plausible explanation, at least. It's difficult to prove that perfectly, but what we can
Sure,
see in the
sure.
data that supports that, yes. Uh, so that was quite intriguing, I think.
Are you a sleep tech looking for new opportunities? Well, MedBridge Healthcare is one of the largest employers of sleep technologists, and they are growing. If you are a sleep technologist interested in a new position, potential paid relocation, or looking for a career advancement, consider a career with MedBridge Healthcare. Now back to the show. Fisher & Paykel Solo is the world's first auto-fit CPAP mask. It simplifies setup with its revolutionary auto-lock technology. Simply stretch to fit, touch to adjust. Go to fphcare.com/solo.
I would agree. And so, could you tell us a little bit more about the app and and it and its usage in terms of people's health, overall health and wellness? Because I think that's a big piece of this, especially with all the data that you've been able to acquire all these years.
Absolutely. So going back to the Sleep Cycle app, first of all, we are completely audio based. So we have been audio based now since 2015. We started out being accelerometer based. We only measured movements by having the phone in bed, but in 2015 we moved to audio. And that has really been the big thing for us, because audio is, I mean, first of all, we're able to do it in a way that's completely private, which is crucial. But secondly, it's extremely powerful. I mean, there's a reason why all animals have ears, and there's a reason why the stethoscope is like the symbol for health. You can detect sleep. So we do that pretty well using breathing. We have there are some other apps that also use audio, but they mainly work with movement, so they can detect some movements, and from that you can get an okay sleep tracking. But what we do, we actually track your inhales, your exhales, your snores, and then from that we can do some signal processing to get both your breathing rate robustly throughout the night and also your breathing regularity. And there's a connection between your regularity of breathing and sleep stage. So from that data, we can actually do sleep staging together with movements at a fairly good accuracy. We end up in the range of 52 to 0.6 in Cohen's kappa, which is pretty good. It's going to depend a bit on the environment. So if you sleep alone and it's quiet in your room, you get a very good score. If it's noisy and you are multiple people sleeping together, it's harder. I mean, we do a lot of work to get that to work, but it's harder. So that's one thing that we do. We track your sleep. We do sleep staging. On top of that, we track your snoring. So we have some people that only use Sleep Cycle because they want to track their snoring and understand how much they snore, and also if there could be problems with your snoring, because we record clips from your snore sessions. You can bring that along to your doctor to let the doctor listen to how you snore. So that's a use case that actually is being used. And then, of course, we are now pushing towards sleep apnea. So we have developed technology to detect if you're very similar to the what Samsung and Apple Watch is doing, detect if you have a sleep apnea index over 15. So that technology is something we now have developed, and it's audio based, and we are trying to get that FDA cleared. So we're running a really large scale study right now with it's going to be over 800 participants doing both audio and PSG at the same time to be able to do that study. So we're going for that. And then finally, we are also detecting many other things, so including sneezing and coughing and other, like your breathing rate as a metric, because all of these are really interesting if you want to track your health. So the coughing is obvious why it's an interesting signal. Breathing rate is also actually also a very interesting signal. And I think you have some respiratory background, so maybe you can back me up on this or tell me I'm wrong. But as I understand it, your medium breathing rate is actually quite predictive for instance, COVID. So you can see that since your body is consuming the same amount of oxygen no matter what, more or less, if you have a fever, a little bit more. But if you have less efficient lungs, then you have to increase your breathing rate more or less to be able to compensate. So you can see about 2 breaths per minute higher breathing rate in medium if you have COVID. And you can also see trends over time, says something about your fitness, and there's so much information in that signal. So that's also something that we're working with.
Michael, that's absolutely fascinating. I think one of the things that I find really interesting about this type of subject is how we can begin to take that data and then look at it from gender and then race and all of these kind of subtypes. Are you beginning to see that with this amount of data, but particularly one is gender, because we talk about that a lot. It's become a bigger subject, especially in the last year with the Academy's focus on it and other leaders. Are you seeing any differences there that really begin to give you some definition between the gender types? And then what about races around the country? Because you mentioned Seoul and there in Sweden and in Los Angeles. Do you see differences from that standpoint as well?
Yeah, we definitely do. So there's big differences between sexes when it comes to, for instance, snoring. We can see, well, you may guess it, men tend to snore more than women. We haven't really looked into breathing and breathing patterns and such, and gender. There might be something there. It could be an interesting study to do, but that's not something we have looked at in particular. However, when it comes to how people sleep around the world, that is something that we have done a lot with. And it turns out there are huge differences, huge differences. So one of them is Seoul. So in Korea, compared to the Western world, they sleep much less, which is, I don't know how that works. I mean, why that is, if there's a physiological reason for it, or they just don't have time to sleep. I'm not sure which one it is, but there was a significant difference between them. Then on top of that, and maybe that could be part of the explanation, many cultures sleep more than once. So when they sleep more than once, and they may not track their sleep on both times, and that will impact the duration per sleep session, of course. So we can see that, for instance, in Saudi Arabia is one of them where they tend to do that, and famously in Spain as well, of course. And then we can see huge differences in like how long you sleep, and I guess that will also impact what type of sleep you have and your sleep architecture. But that is not something that we've been looking into, but it would be fascinating to do. Definitely.
Michael, you mentioned something that I found very interesting. And if you don't mind talking about it a little bit more, I'm a certified personal trainer apart from the other t-shirts that I wear. And so you talked about the change in breathing at night based on fitness levels or even change in fitness levels. Could you talk a little bit more about that, please? I just found that fascinating to hear.
Absolutely. So that's also one of those physiologically necessities almost that it has to be that way. So when you increase your fitness, you tend to get a more efficient lung, and when you do, we can see that quite clearly. You will decrease in your breathing rate during the night. So the information, and this is actually something I took from a discussion with Whoop. But it was from an article. Anyway, the information in breathing rate is very similar to the information that you can get out of heart rate variability. So those tend to have similar information, but when it comes to sleep tracking, breathing is more powerful. That at least is what I have understood. When I mean, what can I say more about it? I have some anecdotal evidence. Me and the former CEO at Sleep Cycle, Carl Johan, who is a great runner, we had to when I tried the algorithm first. For me, I put a lower bound at the breath per minute, and when he used the app, it was well below. So there's a pretty large variability in what breathing per minute you have during the night, and it tends to be tightly coupled to your, I guess, cardiovascular like fitness. But it would be really interesting to do more research on that, I think. And I would, so if anyone listening to this right now is interested in doing that kind of research, please reach out. So this is actually data that we have collected for the whole world now for a while. So we have anonymized data on breathing rate from all over the world, in addition to the coughing. But currently, we're not doing anything with the breathing. So it could be interesting if you have a research idea.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. It's we are out of time, and we sincerely appreciate that. So, where if people did want to reach out, in whether it's regarding this research or anything else, where could they get more information about you or the company?
Absolutely. So you can email me at either research@sleepcycle.com if there's a research question, or partnerships if it's more of a partnership question. And please check out our webpage for information about Sleep Cycle. You can both look at our app, and you can also go to a very interesting webpage if you want to look at coughing all over the world. It's sleepcycle.com/cough radar. Here you can see maps of how people cough in the entire world, and you can see coughing trends. So you can see that people cough more towards the winter, and during over Christmas there's a huge spike. Always when you meet your relatives, you tend to get sick, I guess. So then you can see that in the trend lines all over the world. That's very interesting. It's a fun activity to do.
That is fascinating.
We will have that information on the in the show notes. So, thank you, Michael. And thank all of you. We thank you so much for all that you're doing. especially with the sharing of our show. A huge thanks to our sponsors. And we say, until next time, lights on. Wow, that was quite a show. It's time for some post-cals. I mean, that was data, data, data.
You know what, Jerry, it was. But I think what's so cool, I know we kind of pick on each other about the whole endotypes and AI and things like that. But when you look at the volume of data that Sleep Cycle is churning through every day, not just weekly or yearly, but every night, the number of patients from Europe, America, Asia, all over the world that they're collecting and looking at these different types. And then out of that, beginning to see some behaviors, everything from
Right.
coughing to other things around, sleeping and waking behavior based on what part of the world they're in.
Yeah,
That's
based
absolutely
on
fascinating.
COVID. Based on COVID. That was wild,
Absolutely.
wasn't it?
And it kind of makes sense, but I think it's one of those things that's different when you can kind of look at it from that analytical viewpoint to
Right.
say, wow, okay, well, that makes sense, but who knew that it would be that kind of an impact? And, when you're thinking of, I think he said 1,000 terabytes of information, a day, that is insane, to have that much information they're combing through. And, what are we ultimately going to learn as we look at this in the future about different types from gender to race to nationality? He's already got some of that, but I think, in the future, there's going to be some interesting mapping of these phenotypes, and what we learn from from Sleep Cycle, I think, is going to be fascinating.
You're right. We do josh with each other when it comes to these terms, but you made some good points earlier about how this could help us in terms of predictive analytics and that sort of thing. And even talking about it now is that to be able to fine tune and better understand what's going on, because I mean, you mentioned that earlier, right? That all these studies were based on one type of individual that we had done in the past. Now we're able to actually see data on a nightly basis about all different types of people and be able to
Right.
filter through, drill down, and figure out what's going on with what type of patient. I think it's going to be make for a whole lot better medicine moving forward.
I think so too, because that's one of the things that I get concerned about as we see proliferation of diagnostics that just seems to go unchecked, are people that are marginalized, particularly by gender or by race. And I think, when we look at this big data, it allows us to really see, okay, where are those misses? And as we see sleep medicine evolve to be more inclusive around gender and race, does it inform us more to make better decisions? I said this at a conference a while back. We know better, so we should do better. And I think the information that Sleep Cycle and others are generating really puts us in that position so that we can do better patient care. And that's ultimately why we do all this to begin with.
Well said, Emerson. And I think that's a great place to close.
All right.
All right, folks, until next time, cheers.
Be sure to check out our clinical sponsor, Sleep Review Magazine. More details in show notes.